Chapter 1. Lavender Hill. Lavender Hill was the kind of place the world forgot. A winding path up a soft hill, flanked with crumbling stone walls, wild hedgerows, and that old English charm that made everything feel like a memory. At the top of the hill sat a small cottage, whitewashed and ivy-draped, with windows always slightly open, and the scent of bread and rosemary forever in the air. Inside lived Grandma Maggie, a woman in her late 70s with silver curls, kind blue eyes, and hands that could fix anything. Clocks, teacups, hearts. She wore aprons dusted with flour and kept a tin of sweets for visitors. Even a few came these days. She lived alone, but not lonely. Birds were her daily audience. Wind was her companion. The house was always warm, filled with ticking clocks, framed photos, and the soft creak of wooden floors. Each night, Maggie lit the old lantern in her front window. No one quite knew why, not anymore. Some said it was for her late husband. Others whispered it was for someone lost. But she lit it faithfully, like a promise to the dark. Far away, in a city that never stopped humming, her grandson Jamie lived a life of noise and numbers, deadlines, coffee cups, unread texts. He hadn't visited in years. The memories of lavender-scented summers had faded beneath high-rises and hustle. Until one day a letter came, in handwriting unmistakably hers. Dear Jamie, I think it's time you came home. Love, Grandma. Chapter 2. The Unexpected Visitor. The train pulled into Alderbrook Station with a whistle that startled a flock of pigeons. Jamie stepped off, duffel bag in hand, blinking at the countryside like it was a foreign land. He hadn't been here in nearly 15 years. The village hadn't changed. Same crooked signposts, same tea shop with lace curtains, same old busker playing the accordion outside the butcher's. When he reached Lavender Hill, the sight of the cottage made him pause. It looked smaller than he remembered, but brighter somehow, as if it had been waiting for him. Maggie opened the door before he knocked. "You got taller," she said, eyeing him like a rare bird. "You got shorter," Jamie replied. She laughed, pulling him into a hug that smelled like cinnamon and thyme. The house was just as he remembered, full of ticking clocks, faded rugs, and the gentle hum of peace. Maggie made tea, served scones, and didn't ask questions right away. She never did. That evening, Jamie noticed the lantern glowing in the front window. "You still do that?" he asked. Maggie nodded. Some lights are meant to stay lit, even when no one's looking. Jamie didn't know what to say, so he said nothing and watched the flame dance against the glass. Chapter 3. A tin full of letters. Jamie couldn't sleep. The city's insomnia had infected him. Even here, he wandered the halls, his footsteps quiet. In the attic, under a dusty quilt, he found an old tin box. Inside were letters, hundreds, yellowed with time. They were all addressed to him. Letters Maggie had written but never sent. Some were from when he was a child, detailing days spent gardening, baking, feeding birds. Others were from when he was a teenager, trying to reach him as he pulled away. Later letters were different. Updates on the garden, her aches and joys, reflections on life. One read, "I planted sunflowers today. You used to say they looked like happy soldiers. I miss your laugh." Jamie read for hours, the night slipping by unnoticed. When morning came, he brought the tin downstairs. "I found your letters," he said quietly. Maggie looked at the tin, then at him. "I didn't want to lose you completely, so I wrote, even when you stopped answering." Jamie sat beside her. "I'm sorry I was gone so long." She reached over, gently squeezed his hand. "You're here now." Chapter 4. The Garden Reclaimed. Spring deepened its hold on Alderbrook, turning the fields lush and noisy with birdsong. Each morning brought a warmer sun and new buds peeking through soil that had slept too long. Maggie's garden, though still charming in its wildness, had begun to show the signs of age, weeds choking the vegetable beds, broken trellises leaning like tired bones, and rose vines tangled beyond recognition. Jamie stood at the kitchen window, sipping tea, eyes fixed on the chaos of green. A memory flickered. Him, at 9, muddy hands in the soil, Maggie by his side, showing him how to plant bulbs with care and whisper to them like secrets. That afternoon he walked out to the shed. The door creaked like it hadn't been opened in years. Dust motes danced in the light as he pulled out a spade, a trowel, and gloves stiff from disuse. Maggie stood at the edge of the porch, her eyebrows raised in amused surprise. "You remember how to use those things?" she asked, voice teasing. Jamie grinned. "Muscle memory. And your instructions. They're impossible to forget." They worked side by side that week, falling into a quiet routine. Jamie fixed the trellises, untangled vines, and replanted the herbs. Maggie brought him lemonade and sat nearby, knitting and offering gentle corrections. In the evenings, they sat on the porch, watching the sky blush pink with sunset. The garden, day by day, grew neater, fuller, a reflection of something healing within Jamie himself. They even recreated a garden plan from his childhood, a butterfly corner, fairy flowers, and a gnome cafe. Children from the village stopped by, planting seeds and giggling. That night, the lantern glowed brighter. Jamie understood now. Maggie wasn't just tending the garden. She was tending him. Chapter 5. Storms and Stories. One early morning in mid-April, Jamie awoke to the sound of wind howling down the chimney. The skies over Alderbrook were dark and rolling, and the scent of rain clung to the air like something ancient and inevitable. A storm was coming. Maggie, unfazed, pulled on her boots and wrapped a shawl around her shoulders. "Storms are good for the soil," she said, "but bad for the roof, so you and I have work to do." They secured windows, brought in cushions, and tied down flower pots. Jamie found an old gramophone in the attic, alongside trunks full of wool and jam jars. As the storm arrived, they settled inside. Maggie called it story night. By the fire, she shared tales of her youth, her first love, wartime memories, and meeting Jamie's grandfather. Jamie listened and realized how much he never knew. Then she spoke of him, the boy who once cried over a dead sunflower, who danced in the rain. Jamie laughed, and something inside softened. Guilt is heavy, but it's nothing compared to loneliness. He whispered, "I should have come sooner." "You came when you needed to," she replied. When the power went out, they lit candles and danced to crackling records. Outside, the storm passed. Inside, something long broken had begun to mend. Chapter 6. The Light in the Window. The weeks that followed were filled with slow rhythms and small joys. Jamie found himself rising earlier, helping Maggie with breakfast, and taking walks through the village lanes he once thought too quiet. The villagers greeted him with warm familiarity, remembering the boy who used to chase geese and skip stones in the brook. One morning, as he trimmed the hedges by the front gate, an elderly man with a hound stopped and said, "You've got Maggie's eyes, you know. Kind eyes. Glad to see them back in town." Jamie smiled, but the words stayed with him. In the evenings, the lantern still burned in the window. At first it was Maggie who lit it, a ritual, like tea or brushing her hair. But soon Jamie began doing it himself. It simply felt right. One afternoon, Jamie was organizing Maggie's books when he found a leather-bound journal filled with short entries. March 14th. Jamie liked the cinnamon scones. He didn't say it, but he took 2. April 2nd. We danced. My knees ache, but my heart feels young again. April 10th. He asked for a cutting of the lavender bush, said he wants to grow his own in the city. Jamie closed the book, heart full. That night, under a starlit sky, he said, "Maybe I could come back more often, help with the garden, work from here sometimes." Maggie took his hand. "I'd like that very much." When he returned to the city, he left behind boots and a raincoat. He didn't say goodbye, only, "See you soon." And every night after, the light in the window glowed, a simple flame, a beacon of return, a promise in the dark. Thanks for watching. Take action today, not tomorrow. Press subscribe. And let's keep learning together. You're doing great. See you in the next one. Stay strong.